Hello class, you're welcome to today's lecture. Today we're going to be looking at human resource planning. We're going to look at how do we plan for this very important asset, which are the people. We're going to look at the strategies that can be put in place to plan for them, to forecast, to determine how do you determine the staff members that you will need in an organization at a given time. What are the methods used? What are the advantages of having a human resource plan for any given organization? What are the pitfalls? What are the challenges in trying to forecast for manpower? Now, as we know, let us look at human resource planning in the simple aspect, like you could look at if you're going to go on a journey. If you're going to go on a journey, you will need to prepare. You will need to plan. You will need to first assess yourself and say, where am I at the moment? Maybe I'm in Kampala and I'm trying to get to Mukono. So you determine where you are, and you say, where do I want to be at in maybe 2 hours' time? And you say, I want to be in Mukono in 2 hours' time. Now, the plan of how to get there, what means of transport are you going to use? Which will be the most effective? Is it easier for you to take a boarder? Is it easier for you to take a car? Or do you want to walk there? So that preparation and that planning for your outcome, which is being in Mukono, is simply what a plan is. So in the human resource planning, we also, in the same way, we also look at where is the organization in terms of the human resource, in terms of the personnel that it has. Then secondly, where is the organization planning to go futuristically? In terms of their strategy, where are they looking to see themselves in a given time? And then the third aspect is the route or the strategy. How are you going to get there? What are you going to do to get you to the point that you need to get to? Let's look at the definitions of human resource planning. DeCenzo defines it as the process of getting the right number of qualified people into the right job at the right time. So you see there, it's about qualified people. Remember, we have gone through recruitment and selection to determine that we get the right people in the organization. So through human resource planning, you're trying to say, who are the qualified people that I need? And then you're also trying to say the right number of those people. If you have too many, if you have a university, for example, if you have too many lecturers for a given course, then you're oversubscribed. Again, if you have too few, the work won't be done. But then in terms of the qualifications, are those lecturers qualified to teach the courses that they're supposed to be teaching? And then timing, at the right time. A human resource plan should be able to allow you to ensure that an organization is able to have the required number of people with the right qualifications at the right time. When you need the semesters for the lecturers for a given semester, will they be available, or you'll have to look for part-time staff and outsource from elsewhere? It's the process, again, on definitions. It's the process by which an organization ensures that it has the right number and the kinds of people in the right places at the right time. Let's just pause there, in the right places. Let's go back to our example of a university. You want to have the right lecturers of a given field, let's say accounting. You want to have appointed those people to teach accounts. You don't want to have appointed accounting lecturers to teach HR. So that's what that statement right there means. In the people allocating people in the right places because they have the required qualifications and requirements, so they must be put in the right place. at the right time, capable of efficiently and effectively completing those tasks that will help the organizations achieve its overall objectives. When you have the right people placed correctly in the organization, then they'll be able to effectively deliver on the goals for the organization. Michael Armstrong defines human resource planning as a process of ensuring that human resource needs of an organization are identified and plans are made for satisfying those requirements. You identify the need and you say the next semester, in the Advent semester, what courses are we going to be running as a university? What courses is the Faculty of Business going to be running? Now, and then you say, who are the people that are going to teach those courses? So there's a mini human resource plan right there for just even a few months to come for September semester. The planning is already happening to say, where are we going? Meaning we are going to teach in the September semester. And then how are we going to do it? And then we say, these are the people that we are going to need to teach. And then we ensure that we engage them. Maybe letters are given to them and data forms are filled to ensure that they've been identified to satisfy the plans of the university to teach in that semester. The last definition submitted is by Graham and Roger Bennett, and he defines human resource planning as an attempt to forecast how many and what kind of employees will be required in the future and to what extent the demand is likely to be met. So human resource planning is not just about determining the need, it's also determining will the organization be able to hire those people then? Or do they have the skill internally? Or what will they do when that need comes? Now, let's look at the process of human resource planning. The first major step or broad headline is what we are going to define as assessing the current human resources. That is the first step. Remember what we said at the beginning, when you're taking a journey, you want to take a journey to go somewhere. Your first step is to say, where am I? If your plan is to go to Kampala and you're in anywhere around Uganda, the first question to ask is, where am I? Am I in Arua? Am I in Mukono? Am I in Kabale? Because where you are will then determine how far you need to move to get to Kampala. How much time will you need? The person in Kabale will probably need much more time than the person who is in Barara. So determining where are you at, how far are you from the goal that you want to achieve is the very first step. Now, determining where you are is also important because it might help you to select what vehicle are you then going to use. The person that is in Kabale will probably need to use a car, by all means. The person who is in Wachiso and needs to get to Kampala may use a boda and they will get there. The person who is on the outskirts of Kampala could even walk to Kampala. So assessing where are you, where is the organization in terms of the human resource planning, what is the current status. Now, how is that done in human resource planning? The starting point is to develop a profile of the current status of the people that you have in the organization. And by that, we are saying, who are the people that you have? What is their number? What are their qualifications? What are their skills? What are their abilities? Have any of them upgraded in such a way over time that they can be, that they've now developed skills and they can be put in another department, for example? How can you make use of the current staff? In the same breath, when you do that assessment, what gaps do you have? Maybe the staff you have are not qualified enough to take you to the place that you need to go. Maybe you need to upgrade their skills. Last year at the start of the COVID pandemic and the lockdown that happened here in Uganda, and the universities had to go to online teaching, those that could. You had to do a quick assessment to say the lecturers that we have now, can they do online learning? that assessment had to be done quickly, and also then to quickly say, okay, if they have not been trained, who are the ones that have not been trained? How quickly can we train them to make them ready for online learning in a few months? So that assessment of what you have at the moment. Now, as you do that assessment of the staff that you have at the moment, you do what we call a human resource inventory. The inventory is a report that is derived from the forms completed by employees and then checked by supervisors in the HR department. These reports, the reports that comprise of an inventory will include, of course, names, the education, the training, the current position that people hold, their abilities, what are they being paid, what other extra skills do they have. That is very important, because it's not enough to just say, we recruited this person when he was an accountant. Maybe now he has acquired more skills for auditing. If he has acquired more skills for auditing, that means that maybe in our inventory we can say we actually have two accountants, and one of the accountants has auditing skills. That means that if we need an auditor, maybe we can promote this person to do the auditing work. That's why an inventory is very important for the organization to first understand who it has and what skills they have. So this input is valuable in providing information about what already exists in the organization, and it guides the organization's strategy. What are we going to do basing on the skills that we already have? And the human resource inventory is also a very important tool, because it can help the organization to rework its strategy, but to also to plan for training, because it will help you realize what the skills gaps are. You will have a schedule that shows all the administrative assistants that you have in the organization, for example, a list of all the drivers and their qualifications. Now, from that inventory, you can quickly tell and say, out of the 10 drivers that I have, only 3 of them have, let me say, a special driving permit for buses or for trucks. Now, if you're an organization that is into delivery, for example, and you're going to be delivering maybe you're going to be delivering dry rations around the country, you're going to have a fleet of 100 lorries. If you do your inventory and the drivers that you have at a given time do not have the driving skills for trucks, then it means you quickly need to upgrade them to be able to do that work. Now, under the human resource inventory, after that you will then do, after knowing what you have, you will then do what we call a job analysis. We looked at this in detail before. So the job analysis then enables you to understand each of the jobs in the organization. What are the requirements? What activities are people going to do? So the job analysis therefore obtains information about the jobs. It uses that information to develop job descriptions and job specifications and job evaluations. This we went through in the previous lecture. But when you're doing human resource planning, the first step is to do an inventory, and under the process of doing an inventory, you then also conduct a job analysis after understanding the descriptions of the people that you have on board. Okay, now the second step, or the second major step, would then be assessing where the organization is going. Remember, the first step has been, where is the organization in terms of, where does it lie in terms of its human resources? Now, the second major step is going to be, where is the organization going? That broadly means in terms of strategy. Let's take an example of the factory that we have, or the company that we have talked about. Somebody has been having a company that supplies things. Maybe they've been supplying within Kampala and Mukono and Wachiso only. But they then develop a new strategy and say, starting 2022, we're going to be supplying to the whole of Uganda, the northern region, the eastern, the western. We're going to be supplying in all those places. Now, that is where that given company wants to go. That is their strategy. That is their goal. So it is important to then at that point assess where is the company going. If that company had 10 drivers before, like we said, and only 3 of them have the driving permits for parks, it then means that they need to, one, upgrade those 7 others. They need to upgrade their skills quickly to be able to drive the vans, the trucks, but also maybe they even need to hire more truck drivers. All this is informed by the strategy, by where the organization is going. If that company was not expanding its frontiers to reach the whole of Uganda, maybe they would then at that point say, these are the stuff we have, they still and they will work for us, and we will maintain them at that level. But because of where they are going, where an organization is going is a great determinant of the human resource plan. So it is important, therefore, to note that before we can estimate future human resource needs, some formal statement is required about the organization's plan for the future. What forecast? Are we expanding in sales? Are we expanding in our in the market-rich area? Because if an organization is expanding, then where they are going will be a great driver of who they need to recruit, or what skills they need to train the existing staff in for them to be able to cope. Now, the third step would then be forecasting the future human resource demands. Remember, the first step was to determine where the organization is in terms of staffing. The second step was to define where is the organization going. Now, the third step is to forecast the human resource demands. That means that this company that is now spreading its frontiers to go and supply produce to the whole of Uganda, to all the districts in Uganda, it must then say how many people are we going to need when we kick off in 2022 to supply, to do this supply around the country. How many drivers in total are we going to need? How many trucks? How frequently will we be sending them to deliver the produce to these different places? Now, that forecast is going to be informed by the work that has to be done. So the volume of the work that has to be done is then going to inform this human resource plan to say, oh, if we have 40 districts that we want to be supplying to, maybe we'll need 2 drivers for each district. So that means we'll need a total of 80 drivers. So that is forecasting the human resource demand. That is saying that once we roll out, once we start, we are going to need 80 drivers, because if we have 2 per district, maybe one goes and delivers things, and he comes back, he rests for a week, and then the second driver goes. So the total number needed for all the districts will be 80. So that forecast, that future demand, the demand to know that what will the organization need in terms of staffing for it to be able to conduct to fulfill its objectives. So a projection of future human resource needs can be developed after assessing the organization's current HR situation and the future direction of the organization in terms of revenue forecasts. That organization must have said, we want to increase our revenue and our sales by maybe 500 million or something. And if we are to do that, these are the people that we will need to take us there for us to be able to raise that revenue. It is necessary to perform a year-by-year analysis for every significant job level and type. You cannot, therefore, this organization then needs to say, in forecasting the human resource demands, it must then forecast when we roll out this plan in 2022, will we be able to recruit 80 drivers? Will we be able to, or we use the people that we already have on board? Maybe they have some other employees who probably have been cleaners, or maybe they have been conductors, but then they have now gotten driving skills and they can be upgraded to drivers. So forecasting that human resource demand is a very important step. Now the fourth step is then forecasting the supply. In the step before, you were trying to project what will the demand be like, what will I need. Now you need to then forecast and determine the supply, forecasting the human resource supply. Will you be able to get those drivers, those 80 drivers in 2022 January when you kick off? Will you be able to get them internally or by upgrading the people that you already have, or will you need to recruit them externally from other places for you to be able to determine your supply? Forecasting the internal, so it's basically done in two ways. Forecasting the internal supply, that is the number and type of employees who will be in an organization at a future date. So that company then has to sit down and say, if we look at the staff we have now in 2021, are we likely to have them in 2022? Or will some have exited? You can look at your attrition rates and say in a year we lose about 5 people every year. So you use the same method and you say that means next year we will be less by 5 people. So the internal supply, will you have the employees that you need that are already available internally? And then the other way is also forecasting the external supply, the number and type of people who will be available for hiring. You cannot take it for granted that in 2022 January, when you need the 80 drivers, you will get them. You might either need to start looking for them earlier, or you might say, no, the job market is well saturated with drivers, and if we put on an advert for 80 drivers, we will surely get them in a month. So what are the forces there? What are the environmental factors around that? How easy is it for you in a given country, in a given district, for example, to get certain manpower? You might find that it's not easy to get very senior lecturers when you move out of the central region, professors and what in certain fields. You might find that it's easier to recruit them from the central region than from the outer the districts that are further from the central. So again, forecasting that internal supply and that external supply. How the number of people that will they be available for you to hire. Now, to estimate any change in internal supply is also what I've talked about already. What changes are likely to occur to your current staffing? Are you likely to have recruited more people, or according to the situations, the prevailing situations and the trends, how many people will you have lost in a given time? Because then that determines how many staff members you have at a given time. Okay, now let's move on to the importance of human resource planning to organizations. I think you've now gotten a grasp of what the process is like for human resource planning. Why is human resource planning important to organizations? Planning in itself is a very important aspect. Anyone that does not prepare to plan might as well prepare to fail. So even for this very important asset of people that run and fulfill the goals of different organizations, there must be a robust plan to ensure that there will be people to work at a given time when they are needed. So human resource planning helps to reduce uncertainty as long as the plans are adoptable. Most organizational changes do not occur overnight, and hence planning can provide an element of control. It's very important to plan for the people in an organization. It's very, very critical to estimate and say, how many people will I need in this organization over the next 5 years, over the next 1 year, over the next 6 months. It's very critical, because if you don't, you may get to a place where you're oversubscribed, meaning you've recruited too many people, and then meaning you're going to make losses, because if you've recruited an employee and they have a letter, it means you're going to have to pay them. So the plan helps you to make sure that you're not oversubscribed. Number two, it also ensures that you're not understaffed. Again, if you do not forecast properly to determine that in such a period I'll need so many workers, you'll find that people have left and you've not recruited, and then there's too much work for the staff who you have, and then they'll really lose morale. They might even leave. They'll be stressed out, and you will not even achieve the organization's goals, because when you have employees that are overstretched and overworked, their delivery is affected. Now, planning contributes to organizational performance. Planning can, for example, contribute to the integration of the HR policies and practices with each other and the business strategy, that is horizontal and vertical integration. Human resource planning is perceived as a major facilitator of competitive advantage. Indeed, an organization that has not planned for its staff will not be able to compete. Really, because of what we have seen in the first point, that if you're oversubscribed, you're going to make losses. If you're undersubscribed, you're still going to make losses. So the human resource plan ensures that you have the right number of people at the right time, in the right positions. Remember our definition at the beginning? The human resource plan ensures that the organization is working or being run in an optimal manner. Number three, it anticipates the problems of potential surpluses or deficits of people. When you have a human resource plan, you'll be able to tell that in about 3 months' time, I'm going to have 10 senior lecturers who are going to be retiring. Of those senior lecturers, 5 are in the Faculty of Law. Now, that means that you need to do something very quickly. You need to start the hiring process so that by the time that these people retire, you have already engaged new senior lecturers to come and take board. If you don't do that, it means that you will arrive at the semester, the students report from the Faculty of Law, and then there are no lecturers to teach them. So it anticipates the problems of potential surpluses and deficits of people, and then, of course, enables the organization to plan accordingly. The human resource planning enables an organization to develop a well-trained and flexible workforce, thus contributing to the organization's ability to achieve its goals and objectives. Human resource planning can contribute to flexibility in the organization through flexible terms of work or through identification of skills and qualities required in the employees. Remember what we talked about, that when you do an inventory, which is in the first step of the human resource plan, you're able to tell that I have 100 employees, 30 of them have the following skills. Maybe I can make use of this accountant who has developed auditing skills. Now, that's the flexibility we are talking about here. A human resource plan will enable you to have or to make your staff flexible. In these difficult times now of the pandemic, we have seen, for example, here at UCU, that staff members have to be flexible. If somebody has a skill in IT, then they are engaged to help out in e-learning, to help the lecturers, maybe to train them, which they were not doing before. It wasn't part of their description. But now, because of that flexibility, we are able to employ different people to do different things. A person who is working in the lab now must be able to adapt to do so many different things from what they could do when they were first hired. So having a human resource plan enables you to deploy people as and when you need them. It enables you to project and say, so this person has this skill, we can make use of it instead of recruiting. Or maybe we need to move this person from this department which is overstaffed, and we move them to a department which is understaffed. That is if their skills and abilities can be such that they can be redeployed. It's not everybody that can be redeployed. You cannot, for example, get a secretary and say you're going to take them to work at the clinic, because the faculty has many staff members and the clinic does not have. If you take this secretary to the clinic, they will not be able to administer medicine. So it's only those skills, the flexibility is only those skills which for which somebody can be rotated. For example, accounting and auditing, which I mentioned earlier. The other importance is that it reduces the dependence on external recruitment when key skills are in short supply by formulating retention as well as employee development strategies. I'm sure when you went through recruitment, you saw that recruitment is a very expensive activity. It is important, but it can be very expensive. Now, if you can reduce the dependence of external recruitment, the better. If there are staff within that can be promoted or redeployed, the better for the organization. Remember, these staff already know the values of the organization. They are already socialized in the organization. For some of them, the move might even result into a promotion, meaning they're going to be better motivated. So human resource planning allows an organization to not depend entirely on recruitment. By the way, sometimes you might look for some staff members or to try to fill a certain position and you fail to even fill it through recruitment. So human resource planning reduces the dependence on external recruitment. The other importance is that it improves on the utilization of people by introducing more flexible systems of work. This we have seen. You might have somebody that, like the people that I've told you about that work in the university, a good number of them have, because they are multi-skilled, have now been deployed in so many different places during this time of the lockdown, because if you have an administrator that is very good at IT, then they can do teaching as they do secretarial work. You are maximizing the staff, you are improving the utilization of that person, meaning that their pay is going to improve and they'll also be better motivated. And then it helps in identification of future needs of workers, helps to determine the recruitment level, and helps to monitor the ratio of manpower costs in order to determine the best of their thin resources. So the human resource plan will help you to project future needs of the workers. For example, the inventory will tell you, you'll be able to tell if you carry out an inventory of an organization. For example, you do one for UCU right now, you'll be able to see that, oh, we have this lecturer, he's currently a lecturer, but during the lockdown, he has actually graduated and got a PhD. So then you can identify that this person is going to need a promotion within a year or something. And then you're able to determine how best to place them and how best to make use of them. So it also is helpful for employees, because then their career needs are also met through HR planning. Now, HR planning is not all smooth water. There are some challenges with it, and we're going to look at them in detail. One, there is a challenge in developing accurate forecasts in a turbulent environment. The changing environment makes the planning process more complex and less certain. You can have a good human resource plan on paper, but sometimes when it comes to implementation, a lot is determined by the prevailing situation. If the times are turbulent, I'll give an example of course, what we all know that is happening in the world right now. It's very turbulent in terms of planning for human resources, because you don't know. People that own organizations and companies don't know, is there going to be a lockdown next month? Right now, there's a lockdown at the moment. Will it be lifted within a couple of weeks, or will it be extended? So then the employer is then asking themselves, do I need to issue contracts? How long should I? Should I issue contracts for a year or for a few months? And also, of course, the issues that come with that, because then staff members get demoralized when they have very short contracts. But if the times are turbulent, if there are wars, for example, it's very hard to plan, because you might say, I will need 80 drivers, that the company we mentioned in the beginning. I will need 80 drivers in 2022 to supply to all these districts. But if a war happened, then your plan might fall flat. Your human resource plan will definitely fall flat because you thought you can hire 80 drivers, but if it's a situation of a war, you cannot hire them because people are not willing to work. They put their safety paramount, and maybe you won't even be having the goods that you need to actually sell and deliver. So that turbulent environment normally makes human resource plans very challenging. It could even be the economy that is turbulent, and it also makes the human resource planning rather difficult. Now, human resource planning also normally faces or lacks support from senior management. Never mind that they should be the ones at the helm of, putting it forward. It usually lacks support because they are usually more engrossed with revenue and income and how to make the organization or the company stable and how to make profits and things like that. So sometimes a very good human resource plan can be on paper, but management may not follow it. Again, it could be because of the turbulent times or because they are trying to be to save money and all that, but normally it faces resistance from top management. And then we will also see that there's normally a failure to integrate a human resource plan with organizational plans. The human resource plan could be saying that we need to hire in the long run for a given faculty. We need to hire 5 senior lecturers within the next 5 years. Now, integrating this with the university plans may be difficult because more pressing needs might come up, and yet the hiring of these senior lecturers is also expensive. So they might say, instead of that, it might be foregone for something else to say, no, we have a more pressing need. Can we repair the halls of residence? Can we improve on the bandwidth of the university? Those are more pressing needs. So failure to integrate a human resource plan with organizational plans is something that is also very, very challenging. The other factor is that the reliability of forecasts diminishes as the time scale of projections increases. 2 or 3 months may be reasonable, but a longer time period makes the human resource plan forecast diminish. You might say that I will need these drivers. You plan and project and say I'll need them in a few months' time. But the longer the time passes by, then the accuracy of that forecast begins to diminish. So that is all. I look forward to discussing with you in detail about this lecture, and then we can understand more. Some homework for you to do. After listening to this recorded lecture on human resource planning, what other disadvantages or challenges can you think about in implementing a human resource plan? So we'll discuss this in great detail during the interactive lecture. Thank you so much. Bye.